Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
Tonight, we're talking...
Dragon, what's the name of this episode?
Oh, so funny you ask. Tonight's episode of... is I Thought You'd Never Shut Up.
No, geez, Jacob, I was just asking the name of the episode.
No, Jacob, that's the name of the episode.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right, I'll trust you this time.
You know what's funny about that, though? All the episode titles are pulled from lines of the comics, but weirdly not episodes, not lines that are specifically in the episodes they correspond with. Like this is from Mark going up against one of the talking dinosaurs.
Huh.
It's weird.
Because I remember all the season one's episode titles were from the episodes themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think they just kind of over time they've gotten away from that. They're still pulling from the comic, but they're just kind of pulling, from different places in the comic, apparently.
I mean, like I guess that makes sense, and it's kind of strange, but
yeah, I mean, it's still cool. It's just, you're right. It's just kind of like, why would we do that?
Well, I'm sure Kirkman has his reasons.
Like, you'd think you'd call this one, I Take the Good with the Bad.
And that would be a good alternate title.
That's what my alternate title would have been for this.
I take the good with the bad.
Either that or Are You Crazy?
Alternatively, you could also alternatively call it Negan and Negan rematch.
Yeah, I think it's Glenn. I think it wasn't...
Glenn. Negan and Glenn rematch.
Negan and Glenn's happy reunion.
Yes.
Yep.
Funny enough, spoiler alert for both Walking Dead and this, somehow both of them end with characters' heads getting bashed in.
Yep. Which, in part, I don't think is an accident. I don't know if in the Walking Dead comic if that character, if Glenn, meets a similar end in the comic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that would possibly work in the Invincible comic. Because clearly the Invincible comic happened way before we had a Walking Dead show.
Yep.
So I'm not sure. It's the only way that would really like. Here's all we know is Kirkman confirmed that from the beginning he did want Jeffrey Dean Morgan to play this character for the reason you think, for the meta quality. That's the main reason we got Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Conquest. So when it was like the time, like, hey, we're going to adapt this, and already we're on the pattern. If we were lucky enough to get all the other Walking Dead cast, what's one more?
Oh yeah. They're still missing a couple people from The Walking Dead, but
well, I mean, they could have. I mean, there's still plenty of show left, and we don't know who's playing the Emperor. So
I know, but the one everybody wants to play was never in The Walking Dead.
True. I know. I want Rami Malek to play that character, but we'll see.
All right, but right now we should probably focus on the Viltrumite in front of us.
That's true. So yeah, this is it, folks. This is the one we've been hyping up the whole season and hoping, dear God, please let him make the cut. And thank God the Invincible War was condensed into one episode. That's not saying the Invincible War would have been fun. From what I understand, actually, that episode was pretty much adapted from the comics, where it does not carry on forever. So condensing into one episode seems to be like that's pretty much how you would tell that story. So I mean, maybe it's not a huge surprise that okay, if we have one episode left, surely Conquest would be our finale, and the hope was like, please, oh please, this is the perfect in for that character. Where I still am floored, and just like as a fan of like good storytelling, I just love the timing. It's just perfect. Like after all of this, we need to motivate Mark to reevaluate, his feelings from the start of season 3. We need to and just show how much he's grown, and after we've just put him through the ringer of just facing so many evil versions of himself, and who's the show up just when he's like reeling from all of that? It's going to be Conquest, who is like we forgot about just long enough for him to be a major problem.
Now, initially, like I also kind of proposed like maybe that they would have like had the Invincible War like spread out across the 2 episodes, and then have him be like the season 3 cliffhanger.
Which, I mean, again, look, I'm not saying that wouldn't have worked, but it would have infuriated us. Like, oh my god, how dare you give us Conquest and not give us Conquest?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. That you know what I said. I didn't really want them to do that, but I'm just saying, knowing Kirkman, he probably could have done that.
Oh, absolutely.
But Kirkman delivered.
Now, as I've said many a time before, I've read through Invincible once, so I could be surprised. And Conquest was always the most memorable part of that binge because this is like I would call this the grand midpoint of the whole story. This is the Empire Strikes Back of Invincible. This is like this is a huge, awesome, memorable moment. Again, this is his equivalent to Death of Superman. This is pretty big.
It's kind of amazing that they managed to just have like basically a 40-minute long fight.
I mean, pretty much. Even though I think technically it's like 8 minutes of fighting, but it's still the way in which we do it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I am obviously a bit exaggerating, but the entire episode is just basically them going at each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep. Of course, Conquest always just this cool, memorable character in the Invincible comics. He's basically the best way to describe him. It's a Doomsday with a mustache, or Bane and Doomsday's love child with a mustache.
That is kind of an interesting way to describe him, and I can definitely see where you're coming from. But let's just say he definitely broke more than a back of this episode.
Oh yeah. So Jeffrey Dean Morgan, wonderfully, we were the rumor. Everyone was imagining Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have to play Conquest. There was like a little teaser image of like him with the Invincible books that was posted somewhere. So we had a feeling he was going to be in the season, but it wasn't like confirmed full on like he was playing Conquest. And then we hear Jonathan Banks is going to be in the season, and it's like, okay, if Banks isn't, if Jeffrey Dean Morgan isn't for some reason playing Conquest, it would have to be Jonathan Banks. And when we got Jonathan Banks as a Brit, who's another really fun character in his own right, very solid character, don't get me wrong. Once we knew, like, okay, we have a character for Banks and it's not Conquest, and that just at least it has to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and we got him just again for the Walking Dead reunion of it all. And it's again, he's one, great actor. Two, man knows how to rock a mustache. And three, again, just the fact of again, he's just kind of made for this character. Just feels right.
I mean, and speaking of all that, you really feel like the menace behind his character. Like he doesn't have the funny thing is he doesn't have this this gravelly, like almost scary voice. That's kind of the funny thing.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing here. Apparently, in adapting the material here, Kirkman, again, like a lot of people, kind of wondering, so it's Kirkman readapting his own material and kind of improving upon it. And he's kind of gone record. A lot of people have been interviewing him after this episode, and kind of asking him this sort of stuff. So he's basically said, I mean, yeah, like the main reason he does kind of the Red Hood approach, is to make it fun for him, like make it just kind of fun for him. Like, why would I go back to material I've already told unless I can make it better, doing it in an interesting way that I wouldn't be able to do originally? So Jeffrey Dean Morgan being cast allowed him a lot of opportunity to add layers to this character. For example, later on, like we have like little moments here and there that we did not have in the comic, like the little Bloodheart, not in the comic. The backstory. Conquest did not have a backstory. Had not have like a big monologue moment at the end. That was all Jeffrey Dean. Well, that was Kirkman and / Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
It was basically just like basically the immovable force meeting it's like the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. He still had like the lines are still there, like the big moments in the comic, like him thanking him for this opportunity. But
that's the image. Like most people know, it's like, really, Mark, thank you.
Yeah, so like that's from the comic. But the point being is, you didn't get the sense of like somebody who really relished this. You didn't have like you just felt like he was just kind of saying is like, oh, here's your final goodbye, thank you, and I'm going to kill you now. This is like, oh my god, he's really relishing this.
It's like, yeah, and like I said, when you see this guy, you'd kind of like imagine him like more having like a more gruff or like older sounding voice.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually doesn't.
That's the thing. I expect him to be a more just kind of ferocity, but yeah, that's the thing. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he brought basically what he did with Negan, which is the idea of you have this is the toughest guy you've ever seen in your life, but he's been around, and
He's actually, he's
he's
actually
got
pretty
some
well,
charisma.
and he's actually pretty well spoken.
That's the thing. He's well spoken. He's got some charisma. He's that you don't expect that. The fact is, there's something kind of appealing about this. About this death sentence of a character.
Like, he's strangely poetic about tearing a young child in half.
Yeah, that's the thing. The fact that he enjoys it. And he's here. There's
Like,
always here at the end of the day when you have a villain. One of the best things you can do with a villain is when they genuinely enjoy what they do, because I think deep down it's the human thing of like we all respect a person who enjoys what they do and are really good at what they do, and they kind of see, because again, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, kind of a thing. So it's kind of like the
well,
aspirational goal we've then kind of taken, but put it in the nth degree of darkness you could possibly imagine.
and we even learn later on, at least through this version of Conquest, that even that has its limits for him.
Yeah, but that's still though. I think that's why
He's enjoying it. It's like he's being let loose.
like he's psychotic, but it's kind of like Bullseye. Bullseye loves what he does, and that's what makes him different from Deadpool. Deadpool just he's doing it to can earn a paycheck. And, he's kind of having fun with it as much as he can, but he doesn't enjoy killing people. He enjoys the ease at which he can kill people to the flourish. Bullseye just enjoys killing people because it's kind of more of an evil, just kind of malicious, like he's not viewing them as human, kind of a thing.
It is kind of nice. Actually, considering a lot of media nowadays, it's actually kind of refreshing to just have a villain who enjoys being a villain.
Yeah, but again, like all these psychotic little ways in which he enjoys killing too, without being, it's not even like a serial killer thing either, but it's borderline serial killer. But the idea of like a super, like kind of a superpowered being as somewhat of a serial killer is just the guy who murder just comes second nature to him is kind of
And, I mean, that's kind of an understatement for Conquest, as we see here.
yeah. So, for example, so I guess just to break them down a little bit here, we get the backstory on Conquest. To jump forward a little bit here, again, backstory we never really had, which I found really interesting, is that Conquest, he's isolated by his own people because
As he points out, I'm a victim of my own success.
which is very poetic and very very fantastic. Just the idea that his people drove him to being to the instability of his ways. I love that we have like this
I think one of his best lines is like, I don't even have a name. I have a real name.
just a purpose.
Conquest.
Yeah, so I love that within that there's like a flicker of humanity, just a flicker of it. And again, there's no redeeming human characteristics there. The man is psychotic, but it's the idea that it's like it's less about there being a redeeming element to him. It's more about it's like evil is created, not born. In which this guy again, the Viltrumites, in a sense. And down the line, I have a feeling there's another reason why there aren't many Viltrumites left, and we'll get there. But down the line, regardless, though, it's very much kind of like how Doomsday works. Doomsday, the idea, Doomsday, the character, his whole backstory, his whole gimmick is that he adapts when he dies. So basically, he can't be killed the same way twice, and because of that, over a lifetime of misery, he's become the unkillable, being that you see before. And actually, in recent comics they're doing right now, I haven't been keeping up with Superman in the comics like lately. I mean, I've seen him in like the World's Finest thing he's been doing with Batman, but there's like this Superman comic recently where Doomsday has actually been killed so many times. He's like fighting Superman. He's basically asking him to kill him one more time because basically he's evolved to the point where he's no longer the big hulking like 90s monster that he once was. He's like one death away from being a god, which is a really crazy and heady idea, isn't it?
And so he's like begging him to die one more time.
Yeah, in a sense of like allow me to ascend to a higher consciousness, and But the idea of like a civilized doomsday after all that, after all of that,
and of course Superman's probably not going to give him that.
exactly, and that's kind of where they're at right now with that. But
that actually is kind of an interesting angle for Doomsday.
I know I just kind of heard about it. It's very interesting. I've never thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. That yeah, he would kind of adapt. So the point being, Viltrum and just kind of Viltrumites. The idea that again, it's kind of they've evolved to be they've evolved through brutality. And kind of seeing that applied to Conquest, like the ideology of Viltrum is like the majority of Viltrum without factoring the thing that kind of dwindled their numbers, but already their ideology was the weak don't survive. So they killed a lot of their own people before certain events happened.
Extreme eugenics, basically.
Exactly. Kind of like again, I've always equated it to it's kind of like the Kryptonians meet the Saiyans, where it's kind of like super, it's kind of Krypton's utopia, but by way of like the Saiyans.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, just in terms of, I mainly use the Dragon Ball Saiyans comparison because they were spreading the empire by brokering planets like Raditz tried to do with with the Earth and Goku and all that.
With the only difference being that the Saiyans worked for Frieza when they did that.
Exactly, I'm just saying. But again, it's basically Frieza were the Emperor of Viltrum. It's kind of just somewhat similar, but
still genocidal maniacs.
Oh, absolutely. Anyway, so the idea that this whole the idea that evil is kind of evolved. He's evolved into this evil kind of creature, and he's lost more and more of his humanity. And ultimately, I think the big point of Conquest is that he is like the end all of he's the worst version of Mark's father, and what Mark fears him going along with his father would have turned him into. It's an exaggeration of what his worst fears are. But basically, everything he views Viltrum and Viltrumites as essentially is represented by Conquest, the most brutal and vicious of the Viltrumites, who we kind of confirm here is this guy's one of the greatest warriors on Viltrum, but greatest in the sense of strength, not in the sense of just representing the ideals.
He even said he knew Nolan.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's some kind of envy there from this version of Conquest.
I think remember Nolan was very well respected on the planet. So then of course they all lost respect for him when he kind of fled the planet.
Yes, when he gained a conscience.
Exactly, which is an anathema to them. They don't know. They've never thought about that. And even Conquest, though, he's never thought of a conscience, but he does have the closest thing to humanity and weakness that he's got is introspection. That's kind of his kryptonite to a degree. Where
and also probably overconfidence in some ways.
Well, I mean, sure, but he kind of does back it up that he is pretty much unkillable until he basically, we'll get there.
Even at the end of this episode, he's not dead.
Yeah, well,
So yeah.
So again, it's no name, just a purpose. So this guy is just everything that Viltrum has basically ingrained. But again, even they are afraid of him. Even they just don't, he's a victim of his own success, which is the perfect way of putting it. And again, just the charisma in his performance of, this guy really did it for me. I liked him in the comic, but I think I loved him here. It brought to life because I love a villain who is very civil or has a degree of civility, or at the very least a degree of the moment he was rooting, he's giving Mark words of encouragement while he's battling him. I love that in a villain. I love a villain that has a moment of he is invested in the attempt in the battle, and he's it's kind of that almost I'm not saying he is this character, but kind of a degree of the Ra's Ghul kind of respectability for the craft of look, this is what we're doing, so we might as well be at our best when we do it.
He wanted a worthy challenger. He wanted Mark to be pushed further to his limits.
And that's kind of the Bane in him as well, where Bane does relish beating Batman, he'll that kind of a thing. So there's a little bit of
even another one of his lines. Well, let's face it, though, Conquest has a lot of very good lines in this episode.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, if that's the most strength you can muster, then this is not going to end well for you.
Such a good line.
It's and it's basically at that point he was just humoring. I was just testing a new toy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically you think Mark maybe has it. It basically does kind of lure you in, thinking that maybe Mark has a little bit of a chance. but then he lets loose.
Yeah. In a way, I just love that Conquest is kind of like a teacher. I think ultimately that's what it is. Like the idea of like a villain who's also kind of like the mentor and teacher, which of course is why I love the Reverse Flash to a degree, in which, yeah, the way the Flash TV show went about it, he very much was a mentor to the Flash in a twisted way, where he had to mentor him so he could get faster, so he could basically come into existence. It's a heady grandfather paradox with the Reverse Flash. It's awesome. So
and you love the Reverse Flash.
I do. God, yes, I love the Reverse Flash.
Like you always say like how deliciously petty he is.
Yes, he's deliciously petty and evil, and I just, oh god, I love it.
Yep. Conquest, I wouldn't say he's petty, but
No, that's the thing though. I just love
I
that
know.
there is like he enjoys what he does, and he is rooting for the success of Mark, even though he knows he doesn't have a chance.
Like I guess then it's more like he wants a worthy opponent, like someone to actually challenge him for once.
On some level, it feels like Conquest. I think a way you could possibly read this is that he is rooting for Mark's success, maybe on some level, even if he's not saying it. Is that because I think he knows it's highly unlikely, but I think deep down he wants Mark to succeed in killing him because he wants it to stop. It's the idea of this is going to be a weird pull. In the show Gotham, there was an episode in which young Bruce Wayne, David Mizzou's, young Bruce Wayne, he found essentially Joe Chill. Was it by a different name? In fact, I want to say, if memory serves, I want to say we did a kind of a heady thing where we made Matches Malone the Joe Chill figure. We didn't use the name Joe Chill. We made Matches Malone
Which is usually an alternative name for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, so the idea is like that's where he got the name from, the man who killed his parents, which I think is kind of a neat twist on things. But the point being that character, who by the way is played by Uncle Jack from the Albuquerque verse from Breaking Bad.
Oh, nice.
That was a really good actor too, and that's he only had one episode, and he did a really good job. But the point being, that character was like, he was a hitman, and essentially it was like a thing where he's so numb to like killing people, he just kind of hoped one day someone would take him out.
But he didn't just want to he didn't want to end it himself. He wanted someone else to do it.
Exactly, and I think ultimately that's kind of Conquest, given the loneliness and the regrets, the deep down regrets that he kind of has about his existence. Again, not about what he does, but just about his existence and being able to get away with it. Just the victim of his own success kind of a thing. That I think deep down that's why he's rooting for Mark, because he wants Mark to maybe be successful and kill him. And of course, in doing that, Mark it's taking Mark to the point where Cecil wanted him to be by the beginning of the season.
And the funny thing is, like, this episode does kind of have that kind of towing the line a little bit of like, even if that is true, like you still don't really feel bad for Conquest when Mark beats his face in.
Which is right. That's right.
Yeah, but it's like basically to quote Brooklyn Nine-Nine, cool motive, still murder.
Yep.
I mean, that's basically with Conquest. Like, he's a genocidal maniac who used Mark as a battering ram.
Like, he shows up and he basically says, "Look, they just said take control of the planet by any means necessary," which means I don't have to follow protocol. I don't have to do any of that. And he loves a mission with no parameters, because it's like the act of not killing is the difficult thing for him.
It's like he's like, you did something to make them mad, and I thank you for it.
God, that's what I'm saying. A villain that thanks you is just, I don't know, deep down I think it's just.
I mean, that definitely is a petty thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like usually there's all kinds of these parameters to work with, but not here.
It's like he's an artisan of murder. I don't know. It's just kind of.
He's just this, and basically even just to demonstrate how strong he is, their first contact, which is literally the first thing we see after the recap, when they hit each other, it levels buildings.
Okay, so by the way,
we haven't even gone through like the recap of the episode or started like recapping the episode yet. Just talking about Conquest.
Well, I mean, it is stuff that gets talked about in the episode. We're jumping ahead a bit, so we got to talk about Conquest and how cool he is.
Yeah, but the first time they make contact, it literally levels buildings.
That might be a nod to something, by the way. That's so a big the vibe of this episode with that fight in general, the whole tone of this fight. is very reminiscent of one of the big end all be all Superman moments from the DCAU. This is major. This is the in the episode Destroyer, very last episode of the JLU, essentially the end of the DCAU. In that episode, you have one of the most iconic Superman kind of moments where it's Superman saying to Darkseid, who he hates, by the way. He really hates Darkseid in Superman the Animated Series. The idea basically Superman, it's kind of like this was Endgame before there was Endgame, kids. That's essentially what Destroyer was. The DC equivalent to Endgame, in every sense of the word. And it was Superman saying to essentially our Thanos, if you will, to the Darkseid, it's as if I live in a world made of cardboard, afraid if by accident I might break someone or something or someone. But you can take it, can't you, big man? And basically he says, so I'm. But basically, he's able to cut loose. That's essentially what the whole speech is about.
It's time for me to cut loose and show you how powerful I really am.
Exactly. And just so that's like the big then Superman delivers like the best punch he's ever delivered in his life. It sends Darkseid through at least 3 buildings, 3 skyscrapers even. Regardless, so that's what I'm saying. So like the whole tone, the whole fight is like Mark not holding back at all, which a lot of people, obviously he was kind of outmatched with Nolan, and then beyond that, it's always been about kind of holding back, like when he was on season 2 when he's fighting the other Viltrumites. So this is the first time he's ever completely fought with nothing held back after, thanks to Cecil and everyone, he's as strong as he could possibly be. And he's so he's basically fighting like the whole cardboard speech. But the moment in which they first make contact with that punch that shatters all wings, that might be a nod to Clash, which is Superman versus Shazam, but really Captain Marvel, fighting him.
Huh.
And the moment they first punch each other, like all the windows shatter. So that's something it was kind of a cool moment there, which I don't know. It may be that was like the first time I've ever seen that kind of thing between superheroes and animation. They clash. They punch each other so hard, like all the glass shatters in the buildings around them.
This is like literally Clash of the Supermen.
Yeah. So I want to say that's kind of deep down. That's where they're always getting that inspiration from that initial like dual punch. So, but regardless, you're right though. We have like this. That starts things off, and then it just goes from there.
Yeah, and it gets even more brutal.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like basically even like things are gonna go very bad for Mark when he takes Conquest into space. Conquest like blows his blood, which freezes in space, and he forms a heart out of it.
He smashes the little heart, which that to me is like almost if you would cut to that scene from Age of Ultron where Iron Man's like he's punched the Hulk and the Hulk like, spits out a tooth, and it goes like, "I'm sorry." Like that's kind of that's basically me if I were Invincible. Like, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And basically, that already shows like this guy's not messing around.
This is bad. This is not good. Well,
it's like you can Conquest was enjoying himself.
Now, a big distinction. So again, the big comparison with this finale is season 1 was obviously the big finale, but these 2 fights are very different because one, there's a lot of emotion in the season 1 fight. The emotion being now, mind you, there's emotion in this fight too, but that's more of like towards the tail end of the fight.
Because season 1 was obviously father versus son.
Exactly, and there was a whole build up to that fight, and like the beginning of that fight is like Mark having the honest conversation with his father, which breaks his heart, and then basically he's fighting him now. Then ultimately, of course, we end on the big emotional, like the thing that saves the whole planet. But
in 500 years, what will you have?
What will you have in 500 years?
I'll have you, Dad.
I'd still have you.
And then he realizes, oh my God, I'm killing my own son.
Seriously, just utterly phenomenal. Again, pitch perfect end to season 1. Now, mind you, in a sense, there's still no way to top that. That's top. The whole reason we have other seasons of this show is that scene. Let's be honest. But importantly, though, this, however, that fight is like Mark desperately trying to save people, in a sense, proving his father wrong, but his father just keeps smashing down every like note of heroism that he's trying to do, and all these people are dying, including Powerplex's family.
In this episode, it's just like, I just really want to hit something.
And look, at this point, Mark, it's kind of the sunk cost fallacy, or at this point, Mark just kind of knows, like, okay, look, everyone's essentially evacuated from these buildings after the Invincible War. At this point, I can't possibly contain, like, Mark's not saving people, but that's not his fault, though, okay? He's not, like, actively, he's trying to save people in the grand scheme. Basically, the whole point of this fight versus, like, season one is that this is Mark subscribing to kind of what Cecil's been telling him this whole time of, like, you can be the good guy or the guy who saves the world. In this case, he's the guy who saves the world.
You can't be both.
So Mark is like it's kind of realizing, look, I can only save so many people in the grand scheme, but I have to stop this guy before I can really save anyone. And even Conquest makes it easy for him, saying, look, I will. Maybe you just need motivation because we have this moment that, by a lot of people, are really happy to see they adapted this moment. The moment where he just says, like, stop, and the Conquest actually stops for a second.
Basically, it's more like are you kidding me?
Yeah, so that moment there where, he's just trying, like, I think Mark was not going to give up. I think what he was trying to do is, like, say, can we take this somewhere private?
Yeah, but Conquest didn't bother. He just immediately just grabbed him again.
Now, that is something they kind of changed up, though, where ultimately they are kind of taken somewhere more secluded, where I think in the comic it was all just in the city.
Like, well, either way, like the fight eventually does lead them over the ocean, which Mark was basically pushed so hard, or basically like slammed so hard he was skipping across the ocean.
Exactly,
but that's not where it ends.
Well, I think, by the way, the reason we did this edition is because that was in how do we measure up to season one where we did the big train move? Where
yeah, then like he grabs Mark, he basically makes Mark the train. Essentially, like it basically doesn't even really hit everyone. Like it's just the sheer shockwave of them going through them is what's killing people.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like oh my god.
Yep, and so again, it's like we found a way of, like, how do we top the train? Well, we kind of did.
It's like, well, we turned Mark into the train.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, again, you probably. I don't know if you're getting tired of me using the term, but like the oh my god moments.
So that's the big question, Jacob. So this episode, did it live up to the hype of Conquest for you?
Yep, it did.
Good.
The entire episode was basically an oh my god moment.
Okay, that's what I was hyping up. I just wanted to make sure it actually delivered on that.
Yep, you weren't lying, Dragon. This entire episode was like insane.
Anyway, so while this is all going on, Eve, she kind of wakes up and she sees Mark is very much in need of help. So
her dad goes to get the nurse, which is nice.
yeah, it's something. He did something there.
It's like, you can't even walk. Do I look like I need to walk?
God, I gotta be honest, Jacob. I did this because it does factor into the episode, but also it's because you reach the end of the season. They always like promote this thing. I rewatched the Adam Eve special after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you, man, it just reminds you, Adam Eve is such a freaking awesome character, and also we foreshadowed everything that we see here in that Adam Eve special, which came, I think, before season 2. So yeah, just it all. And Kirkman knows exactly what he's doing.
Well, he has experience with these characters.
Oh yeah, but I just mean in terms of, like, how to really give you all the pieces you need, even like little spin-off specials. Again, I can't tell you how many times people rewatch that thing. It's crazy.
Like every part of the Buffalo Dragon.
Every part of the Buffalo.
Yep.
Anyway, let's see. So, point being, Eve, just great. She's like in the battle. Meanwhile, before that, though, poor Oliver.
Like, yeah, he was like basically. Conquest could have easily just torn him apart immediately.
I love that Debbie, like, she kind of gives the one time she gives Oliver permission to be out there.
And just stay away from him. Help
Don't
Mark.
Don't let him grab you.
And what happens?
Well, he grabs him.
Yeah. And he almost gets torn in half. Like, you actually see Oliver get punched, losing teeth, spitting up blood.
Now, the losing teeth thing's got a bit of a nod to season 1, where, we knocked out Mark's teeth.
He probably has a lot of false teeth now.
Well, yeah, but mind you, Cecil's guys, they're really, really good at that.
Yep.
Plus, there's a chance.
I mean, Cecil only has like one real bit of skin left.
Well, yeah.
So yeah.
To be fair, that's the really cool thing about Invincible. Their patchwork, is really good. Like they can really like patch somebody up like just flawlessly.
It's like, oh hey, you know that fight you were in that almost destroyed your entire body? Yeah, you're good as new. It's like, you just walk it off.
That's thing. So Oliver, I love that we set up that Oliver was really. I mean, he killed the Maulers, like it was nothing. And so even knowing that, just seeing that him going up against Conquest, I mean, he can knock Conquest for like a loop by only because he had the surprise on his side.
But once Conquest knew, like, and he was even like, it's like, even once, like, all right, but even with Mark being there, and like when he saved Oliver's like, you should have used his death to escape. Maybe find a way to defeat me.
Yep, and also I love the whole thing of like you take a break. I want to get acquainted with the boy. And he shows up, he slaps Invincible out of the way.
It's like it just tells you how little of a care Conquest gives about this whole situation.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
doing all this for a lark.
he's having the time of his life.
I think
Really.
he's trying to have fun with this, and he is. He's having a blast.
It's like, don't you see? I was testing a new toy.
So that's the thing too. I love the Conquest from the beginning. He says like the joy that he feels feeling the warm splash of blood on his fist.
And we do get plenty of shots with blood on his fists.
And that's the thing. We have blood, and it's so interesting. We do two things where it's like the tactile, like kind of temperature of liquids from people that you feel. Like, for example, Oliver's tears of pain. You see them splash on his face, and you know he's enjoying that way too much.
Yeah, I said
It's so creepy.
He could have easily just torn Oliver in half and been done with it.
But just describing to him the painful, slow process of being split in half, which I gotta admit, I've never seen that before. I've never seen anyone like describe like the process of being ripped in half.
Like first your skin, and then your muscles, and if you survive long enough, yeah.
Oh my god, it's like every nightmare I've ever had. That's great.
It's like you will feel your body being torn in half.
And the fact that you hear it in the sound design, you hear like you see him stretching. And again, we've seen characters torn in half before in this show. So it's like, oh no, poor Oliver, don't let him be. I mean, there's a chance he could survive it, but you don't want to see this kid go through that.
Oh no, and like I said, Conquest could have easily just torn him apart immediately without just drawing out the process.
Plus, not only that, remember he said he wanted to eat his heart.
Yes. But remember, he's technically half Viltrumite.
I know.
So yeah, that makes it even more messed up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and the Viltrumites killed their own kind, but still, like, the fact they would eat their own kind's heart, that's really heartless.
Well, I mean, is that a Conquest exclusive thing, or is that other Viltrumites that do that too?
I don't think they eat the hearts. I think they would, they definitely kill each other.
Well, I mean, I know that much. I'm just saying. It's like the heart thing is probably just a Conquest exclusive.
Well, I put to you this way. Now, mind you, I don't have all the facts here because it's ages since I read through the whole thing. But I want to say Viltrumites were a lot more kill happy before their numbers dwindled by this outside thing that we'll probably get to in later seasons. But basically, that's something they were kill happy just to get to the strongest, like purifying the bloodline. So
and eventually get to the point like, oh crap, we don't have any left.
Exactly. So that's essentially what happened there. Where again they were basically killing willy nilly, which is what Nolan kind of talked about in season 1, and then they were down to then as we learn this season again they only have like 50 less than 50 Viltrumites left, and that's why they're really. As we established here, Conquest doesn't know Nolan escaped because, again, they lucked out. Nolan really lucked out that Conquest left to go to Earth when he was leaving the prison. Otherwise, that might not have gone his way.
Oh, yeah. So, we know do you think Conquest and would have had a chance against both Nolan and Mark at the same time? I mean, I think they fight in the comics later on, so I don't know.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I want to say I think it would have. I think they would have had a better chance if it was the two of them. For example, though, if Mark had nothing held back, Andy had his dad beside him. Honestly, if Alan was there, then all three of them very easily, I think, could have beaten him. But the two of them.
And Eve.
That's what I'm saying, and Eve. That's the thing, though. It's the question of if what happens to Eve happens to Eve. I think that's what pushes Mark to the edge. So I don't know if Mark on his own with his father would be able to do. Because we saw him and his father still had trouble like 3 regular Viltrumites, but that was before Mark kind of pushed himself though.
Yeah, and at that point, Nolan was also trying to protect the bugs.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is the question of like how much is held back, and then like what's motivating him, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think that chances would have been better, but you know.
It is kind of, and I just remembered, like it is kind of funny that you brought up the Saiyans, but how like kind of like how Conquest even like kind of pokes a hole in that. It's like getting angry doesn't make you stronger. That's not how it works.
Well, it's kind of how it works, Conquest. You're about to learn the hard way.
Yep, but it is just kind of funny how he's pointed that out. Like getting angry does, and that's also kind of probably a dig at the Hulk too.
A little bit,
because being the angrier the Hulk gets,
yeah.
the stronger he gets.
Oh yeah.
Technically, it's also like more. Isn't it more like based on an elevated heart rate or something like that too?
Well, kind of. Look, I'm just saying the way they classically have said the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. But yes, you're right. Biologically, it means like how the heart's beating. Yeah.
All right.
Because basically, his gamma radiated blood. So basically, his heart, the more gamma blood it pumps, the more gamma irradiated he gets.
Yeah, like so. Pretty much anything that elevates his heart rate could result in him becoming the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was just kind of funny that Conquest brought that up.
I love that Cecil like is on there to save Oliver right in the nick of time. So that's good. You know.
Which is nice. Like, and even later with like Cecil, I need you.
Yeah.
But Cecil wasn't there.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, honestly, I think Cecil heard that, but he lied. Well, here's the question: do you think Cecil didn't show up because A, he was gathering the troops for the for the rescue, so he would have the ability to save her and also provide Mark some assistance, or B, do you think it's that Cecil, he's no dumb. He's like, I can't. If I go there, he's gonna kill me like an instant. I gotta wait. Gotta wait till he's busy fighting you, so I can actually save her.
I'm guessing it's probably like 85% the first one, maybe 15% the last one.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It's not like a callous thing for B, by the way. It's just like it's a reality. Like he can't help her if he's dead in like 2 seconds.
I know, but I'm just saying it's like probably a combination of both.
Okay.
Like he's like trying to gather the troops, like gather like any potential heroes he could to even have a chance against this guy.
Yeah.
And also not wanting to die.
Mm-hmm.
Cecil's pragmatic, so we've known Cecil to be pragmatic, so it's entirely possible that both are his motivating factors there. But I think it was but me personally, I think it was more him trying to just gather the forces.
Okay. Anyway, so Eve shows up, and I love the dread on Mark the moment he sees like the like the pink energy kind of thing show up, and he's like, "Oh no!" He's like,
he doesn't want Eve to get involved,
and he's already worried about Eve like from the leg that his alternate doppelganger gave her.
Yep, he's had a lot of trouble with his alternate selves.
Yeah,
and Eve actually does hold up pretty well against Conquest.
And by the way, again, you look at that Adam Eve special, we foreshadow all of this. We show her we mirror 2 scenes with Eve from that special here, where when she goes up against her siblings in the Adam Eve special, she basically armors up exactly like she does here. So that's where she learned it. Again, we see her use her, again, we kind of started to do this earlier in the season as well, but like use like I guess you'd call it like chain weaponry, like the weaponry where it's like on like a long kind of like cord or spire or something that she can flip around and like hit people with, kind of mace like.
Which she also used with Mark earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So she's doing that, and then of course later on when she revives, that was full on from the Adam Eve special. But again, she even talks about it. She hasn't had to do that since she was a girl, which again, saw it. Really cool. Yeah. Anyway, more on that in a sec. But point being, she's fighting Conquest, and again, fighting really smartly too. And I love, by the way, Mark is completely helpless when Conquest like snaps his leg, so he can't help Eve out here. Eve is she's changing the density in the air, which is a really smart move.
Yep. basically keeping Conquest still and keeping away from him.
Oh yeah.
It's like she's fighting smart, but unfortunately, she's dealing with the strongest Viltrumite here.
And just oh god, and this is what Jacob, this is what I was hinting at throughout the season, that I knew this was going to happen to Eve, where yeah, she we get these two crazy kids together. We very much care about them. We like Eve. We love Eve. If that special didn't make us care about Eve, nothing would. And this season is strengthened that in the relationship with these two. So the moment you see Eve essentially die, Conquest, like, he basically, I love it. It's like two strikes. Everything she threw at him. And I love that he was smart enough to see she was getting tuckered out, which is kind of like the weakness of her powers, because she has essentially godlike, goddess-like powers, but it does take a toll.
But basically, he's like telling her, like, not much longer until you wear yourself out.
Oh yeah. So he
I mean, that even then, that shows his like intelligence when it comes to battle. Like,
I love too. Earlier, Oliver said, he's old as dirt, and this is old, not weak.
Yes, like he could potentially be like thousands of years old.
Oh, absolutely.
But could you imagine? Do you think he's lost any strength as he got older, or do you think he's like just as old, just as strong as he ever was?
That's the thing. There's a question if the Viltrumites just. I always thought it was kind of like. I thought it was kind of like the Saiyans, in which the Saiyans, the way it works, is that if you reach near death, you become stronger. So I like to think maybe that applies to the age thing. I'm not sure.
It's like you think he's stronger than he was when he was younger.
I think so, because I think honestly, the way just looking at the series, I think the more you survive, like the more like near death encounters you survive, the stronger you get. So Conquest is surely visually we can at least prove, with the scar he has on his face, he's been through at least one major defeat, and also losing it, like, look, between the eye and the arm. Okay, he's at least had two very substantial battles that probably strengthened him tremendously.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, so we have Batman XC in the comments says, I believe they get stronger as they go older, which yeah, that tracks, and he's like 5,000 years old in the comics. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which would make him, if by that logic, very incredibly strong.
Yeah.
It's like, and basically, when you think Eve might have a chance, nope, he basically halves her jaw.
I think with one punch to the jaw and then one strike through the body.
One to the guts.
Which, as reading the comic, I do remember, like, oh no, not Eve, no!
And then like, if there's one last thing you want to say to her, I'd say it now.
Then there's the creepy bit where he licks her blood off his hand, which again calls back the earlier, like, the splash of blood on his fist.
And what he says is delicious.
God, it's so you hate, just in that moment you want Conquest to be beaten within an inch. Well, you want him to be beaten to death.
That's like, it's like, but you just also kind of just can't look away from just how petty and just how evil he is.
And just saying, oh, too late. I guess it is too late. She's dead.
And it's like, and then that's when he just goes into like, I really must thank you, Mark. But Mark responds with like, it's like, you will not live to see tomorrow.
Well, remember, I can see the future, and you don't live to see tomorrow.
Yes. Mark doesn't care anymore.
It is a cool line, because he's like, and he loves Eve, and she's died in his arms, and I just love that he is just so pissed off at Conquest after everything he's done. He's almost killed Oliver. He's killed Eve before him.
Yep. And then that's when we get basically Mark really finally truly letting loose.
He punches him so hard. He smashes Conquest. This is awesome. He breaks Conquest's fake hand, his metal arm, while breaking his own hand in the process because he hit him that hard.
Yep, but basically,
this isn't just a break, by the way. This is like as brutal, like the bone is coming out of the arm, kind of a break.
Like his arm wasn't broken, Jagan. It was shattered.
Yes, in two.
Probably
more, but very visually at least two.
Like, and the funny thing is, according to the end of the episode, he was out for like less than Eve was for a broken leg.
Well, yeah,
which is kind of weird. But But he
I
has
mean,
like
there's a chance he could have popped the leg back in and then fought, but I don't know. Plus, honestly, you know what? Actually, Jacob, during that fight, again, he's not really using that leg. Like he's just flying. It's not even him like
no, I
using.
meant like he was like beaten to an inch of his life, like with the broken arm and all that. But Eve was out for a week for a broken leg, and like another situation with the other marks. But he did this and is only out for like 3 days.
Well, yeah, that's how fast the Viltrumites heal.
I mean, I know, but it's just kind of funny. It's kind of not funny, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was just hilarious, Jacob. Just ligaments and trauma and all that.
You know what I didn't mean
I know what you
I
mean.
didn't mean funny as in haha funny.
Yeah,
I meant funny as in interesting or weird funny.
yeah.
But either way, like yeah, he breaks apart the metal glove, shattering his own arm, and then basically he literally is fighting with a broken arm, basically trying to not basically take him down in a desperate attempt.
It's kind of like the more dramatic version of the gag in the first Deadpool movie where he's fighting Colossus.
where his arms are broken, but
Yeah,
he
yeah.
breaks
Everyone fears the mighty T-Rex.
he breaks his arms trying to punch Colossus.
Yep, especially in the crotch. He breaks his hand, punching him in the crotch.
And Colossus doesn't feel a thing.
Your poor wife.
That's another thing that was missing. I mean, I love them. I liked Deadpool and Wolverine, but that was something missing from Deadpool and Wolverine. We didn't get enough Colossus.
We never get enough Colossus. Well,
He
he's
was
expensive, Jacob.
Yeah, I know, but we had Marvel Studios money this time.
Well, we did, but you know.
Yep.
Yep.
We didn't get enough Colossus.
Yep.
But anyway.
Anyway.
So it's like, so yeah, basically, still going up against Conquest, and what does it happen next, Dragon? Then.
All right. So then we have, we have Conquest like pinning Mark down, and then we have like that moment of him basically kind of whispering his backstory about how alone he feels and how he's a victim of his own success. Just like giving him something right before he kills him.
Yeah, but he's like basically talking about like all the other Viltrumites are scared of me.
Yeah.
They keep sending me on these missions, and with each success, their fear only grows.
Yep. So Conquest, he breaks Mark's other hand, like during the fight when he's distracted because Eve miraculously
Yep.
is reviving herself. And again, this is something we kind of hinted at in the Adam Eve special, where the idea is like, so she kind of exposits later on here to recap the special in case anyone hasn't seen it. The way Eve's powers work, and again, in the comics, this is a great surprise where it's like, oh my god, Eve has died, and then this happens. It's like a huge, huge thing where Eve has mental blocks that I think it's Brandy, I think it's Brandyworth. I'm butchering his name. Stephen Root played this great character who basically he looks like Doc Brown, which I love, by the way. Basically, looks like Doc Brown, voiced by Stephen Root. He was the guy who created Adam Eve. Basically, he gave her birth mother, powers. He injected her birth mother stuff that basically led to Eve's birth, and Eve. So he's de facto kind of her father in a way. It's a very lovely man. I love the character. He's fantastic. But the point being, this guy, in the effort of maintaining her humanity and making her not a weapon but a person, he gave her mental blocks, which basically prevent her from altering the matter of animals or humans.
Organic matter, she said.
Organic matter, which is why she can affect matter and everything else. Because basically, it would be too godlike to give to any child, any person. Just would drive them mad, or could she alter her own physiology? Would just lead to be horrible.
I mean, and she said, and basically she points out that only in near-death experiences and under extreme duress can she unblock those limiters.
And in that special, we saw, her basically, so she was something very traumatic, so she automatically heals herself, and then basically, basically mind wipes a couple of really bad people. So yeah, so she does have those abilities under like a literal like a life and death circumstance, which we have here. So that's the thing. So being killed, she basically revives herself, good as new, completely healed, reconstitute. She can essentially, she pulls a Dr. Manhattan. It's like she kind of reconstituted herself from scratch.
in exactly the same way as Doctor Manhattan too.
Yeah, that too is from that is from the comic.
If you catch my
No, I do.
yep.
I got you. Point being, before we get there, so Eve is revived, and she saves Mark's bacon.
She basically sends this huge wave of energy, basically enveloping Conquest in pure, basically energy.
Now, mind you, again, this is something that she can do only in this state of duress because she fries his skin off. Like she basically skins him alive, turns him into meat.
Funnily enough, except his face.
Well, that's the thing, and his ankles and his face.
Yeah. So everything else,
meat.
but he was still going. It's like, this time I'm going to make sure you're dead.
And this is when Mark, he's the hand gets broken, and then Mark just like he is so pissed off, and then Mark's like punching him. Then he's punching him, then he breaks the hand, and basically after he breaks the hand, he has a line like, "Is this fun for you?" This is like, "I take the good with the bad," and those are his last words.
And then basically what happens next? Mark, he can't punch him, so he uses the only thing he has left, his head.
But I don't want to use my head.
Ow.
So imagine that, just the dramatic, violent version of that, where he's
it's like
he's headbutting him like a psychotic drinking bird.
He's like, is this fun for you? Is this fun? Are you enjoying this, huh? And then we're getting more and more bloody each time he brings up his head.
I think in the comic he did this like 28 times.
Basically his head just getting more and more bloody each time.
Yep, each time. So basically until you have like just one eye showing amidst the blood, and he is basically again like just full on. Basically what Zack Snyder's version of the drinking bird would be.
So basically,
if Zack Snyder had like one of those little like novelty like drinking birds, like the ones that like dip in the water.
Yep.
Basically, Zack Snyder's version of that would be this.
And so, what I understand, that was another like very notable or / infamous image from the comic.
Yeah.
Was Conquest smashed in face.
Oh yeah. And we kind of foreshadowed this with Angstrom Levy.
It's Levy, but and a little bit with Eve just a few seconds ago.
Well, that was like one punch. That was like a Two-Face thing. That didn't even count.
I guess so, but even then, like, obviously the comic is like much more detailed and horrifying, but
yes,
but still, basically, there's nothing left of Conquest's face.
Yep, face completely caved in, and just Mark is just I love that after that completely violent act that again he just acted very primally and just gave into his kind of his Viltrumite kind of heritage from that moment for the greater good, just to take this guy out. And it's a very satisfying death. It's a very earned death, and in a sense, Conquest goes out happy. He gets exactly what he wanted. He got killed.
And the scariest thing though about that, Conquest isn't dead.
That is crazy.
Yeah. He's still alive.
I know, right? I told you it's messed up.
Yeah, because he even tells Cecil to burn the body.
Yep.
But I don't even think that would even work, to be honest.
Well, no, unless he was like somehow completely ashes. Like that would have to be burning for like probably burning for years, honestly. But yeah.
I don't think you could just like put him into like the crematorium.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we saw Mark can survive being in lava, so he would have to be in a volcano for like probably a month.
Yeah, but yeah, like you even see like this is jumping ahead a bit, but Cecil keeping him underground. Like if he so much as twitches a muscle, this place will explode.
As you can probably guess, it's not
gonna go well.
No.
In other words,
it's not that
simple. Yes. Killing Conquest isn't that simple.
Nope. No, it's not.
Should have gone for the head.
He did. Well,
I know, but he should have removed the head.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, look, he wanted to do that. Cecil didn't.
Yep. It's like he did go for the head like multiple
times. In hindsight, now here's the thing. Look, in hindsight, Cecil should have done like the RoboCop remake, where basically we reveal like Alex Murphy is like he's like a head and like lungs. That's pretty much all that's left. And that's what he basically should have like left of Conquest. But to be fair, the Conquest probably like Deadpool would have regrown the whole body. It's probably
Well, and to give Cecil some credit there, like actually, what's the guy? What's the scientist's name again? The one who made the Reaniman.
Oh, yeah, that's D.A. Sinclair.
Oh yeah, Sinclair. Like even like using even he mentioned it's hard to like decapitate and remove the skin of the Viltrumites considering how durable they are.
Which, by the way, really cool thing that makes a lot of sense that Cecil, if he did have all those dead Invincibles, they would be turned into Reanimen.
Yep.
Which is creepy, by the way. See Mark's face on the on these weird
but they're all
pinhead looking corpses.
Yep. So that's the thing.
Anyway, so just to also kind of call it out here. I'm just going to throw this out there, man. I got mad respect for Kirkman here because I know what he said before, but you know what? Kirkman did it right.
It is an amazing finale.
Well, no, yeah, no. I mean, like the whole there's this the relationship between Mark and Eve, and again, I love that first and foremost we're with the relationship. We're seeing the fact that they really do love each other. Just seeing like the broken body of Mark Grayson, all blood covers, crawl over to Eve, and just they both. He says, they say, I love you before they both pass out. And again, tasteful nudity.
She's like, wait, am I naked?
Which, from the comic. However, you know what? I want to highlight this, okay?
Yeah.
Moment played a lot more classy here than in the comic. And that's not to say, I'm not saying, here's the thing. We showed essentially the same thing in which we obscured things, but we showed definitely enough to register, okay, attractive woman and naked. But importantly, though, in the comic, the beat was everyone showed up, and then she says to him before she passes out, "I'm naked," and everyone's like there staring at her. So I love that we didn't do that exactly. We just have this moment between the two of them, and then they all show up, and it's more so like looking at oh my god, look, we did the Conquest. So I think again, it's kind of readapting the material in a way you know what, that's how you do that, and that's kind of how Kirkman can find a way you know what, this is how we can do the edgier, the racier stuff, or not even racier stuff. Stuff that seemingly in the ridiculous way censorship works. It's we can be as violent as we want, but we can't get away with nudity. We can get away with nudity in a way that doesn't get in the way of the story, but makes logical sense. Well, if she didn't reconstitute herself, she wouldn't be wearing anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I said exactly like Dr. Manhattan.
Exactly. That's yeah. So again, major points because I was wondering, are we going to sidestep that completely? Because that's the thing. Look, I'm more focused in the whole okay, we're going to kill off Eve, and please, dear, we're going to revive her, and we did. Not that I thought we wouldn't, but still we did. And then just the fact that we did it just like the comic too. It's even better.
Yep.
So the hospital moment's really nice too. I love that they're kind of cuddling in bed, and then we address the whole Eve's powers upgrade kind of a thing, and then Debbie has her moments with Mark.
She's like, everyone needs a little comfort sometimes, Mark.
Yeah,
which is nice. She's just happy to see her son's alive.
Yeah,
and Paul too.
Yeah. So then we have the whole thing of Conquest's body and the Reaniman.
Yep, the Steckwoods are making a return too.
Yeah, well, before we get there, we stop at Rex's funeral.
Yep, and it's like Robot is giving the funeral, and Rudy didn't want to be up there because he thought Robot could do it better. Right?
Well, it's the fact that he didn't know if he'd be able to get through it because he's more human now,
So he programmed Robot to do it.
Yeah, it's a nice moment for him, and also
he's taking Rex's name,
which kind of explains that glimpse of the future we got, where why we had a seemingly Robot with Rex's name.
Yep,
I completely forgot about that, and that was a delightful surprise. Oh, that's how that works.
Yep, but still, I miss the real Rex.
Yeah, we all do, and of course, poor Ray. The fact that Ray separated herself from the funeral group, it's sad.
Thank you for listening, Batman.
Thank you.
But it's
we just want to say thank you, Batman XC.
Yes. But yeah, I felt bad for Shrinking Ray. She and Rex they were good together.
Yeah, they were.
That's the only reason why they got together, is to make his death even more sad.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the reason why Kirkman got them together in the first place, was to make his death even more upsetting.
Yep, we showed, man, he was on the right path, and then we killed him.
I mean, like I said in the comments, like in the last episode, like in the Invincible, where like the beginning where he's moving and then things like happen, like he's totally gonna die this episode, isn't he?
Yep.
And sure enough,
I gotta tell you, we had a very like true to Kirkman moment, and I mean, I know I'm doing this thing where I do this sometimes, right? I just kind of throw like a name out there, like a verb, but I just
yeah,
love what we did with Kirkman here, where it's basically this feels like a bit from the comic and just feels honest to these characters and their dynamic and how he would write this kind of scene where Eve and Mark are at the funeral, and obviously Eve, she's very sad about it. She can't get through her eulogy, so Mark goes to comfort her.
yeah.
And it's the moment where, are you smiling? That's a Kirkman gag right there. Like that's a moment of like,
But he responds with pathos, like being like, "I'm just glad you're alive."
I
Basically,
love that. That is just so this the earnestness of like I'm just smiling because I'm just happy you're alive after it's in the face of all. It's like in the face of all this, it's Jacob. It's so hard to write grieving and so hard to do grieving because we've seen it so many times, and it's like everyone's just sad. It's like the fact that one person's going to be smiling at like the things that they can't appreciate in life. You know?
like Mark's been through so much, seen so much death
Yeah.
and destruction. Like he thought he lost Eve, but now she's back. It's like, I'm just glad you're okay.
And it's just so refreshing after all like the doom and gloom this poor kid's been. I stand. I guess the kids would say I stand Mark Grayson. I love this character. I love everything about him, and I just love the fact that he's been through so much, and we give him a moment like this, and it works.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Yep. Anyway, yeah. So also, I should mention this because if we do it, it's probably going to be next season.
Yeah.
We kind of tee up one of the most infamous scenes in the comic. One of the, not the. I know what you're thinking of with the, but this is like the other infamous moment.
Actually, I don't know what the most infamous one is.
Well, the Anissa Invincible moment.
Oh,
That's
all
the
right.
most.
Then yeah, I do know that one.
Okay, so that's the like controversial, infamous moment. The other one. So we had Eve give her funeral, which she says like right from the comic, the whole like Rex was my first everything. Very
Yeah.
genuine. Now, in the comic, there's an infamous page. Mind you, it's infamous just in this. Not infamous in like it's bad or controversial, but it's infamous in the terms like it's such a deplorable thing that happens in the comic that just kind of it chills you as a reader. I mentioned this a little bit to you before, but I think I have. Maybe I did. Maybe it's Peregrine. I don't know. There is a scene with Eve's dad in the comic where it's him and Mark kind of having like kind of like an in-law kind of a moment. They're not married or anything, but it's just kind of like Mark. He's now the parents know who he is. They kind of get to know each other, and this is kind of what Eve was kind of like warning him about. But they were kind of getting close. And there's a moment where Adam is like smoking a cigar outside and offered, "Hey, you want to have like a bonding cigar moment?" And basically, he's no thanks. But anyway, they're talking, and I don't even want to repeat fully what he says because it's just really basically Adam says the most. Eve's dad says the most deplorable thing you could ever have, like a big, almost bigoted, almost big, because he's not really being racist or anything, but just being really sexist, like the most, I guess, sexist thing you could ever hear a man say. And it's like, oh my god, that's the word. And people already kind of hate Adam. I like the layers of Adam, where the ideas at one point this guy was a really loving father, and he does mean well, but he's just kind of he can't get out of his own way. But so I mean, I really hope I have to like a lot of people like I've seen like people in comments or something say, oh god, if they ever adapt that scene, they got to give Fred Tatasciore more money because he's going to say something really hateful. But essentially, it has he calls back this scene. So we have the scene that he calls back to. Now, in all honesty, I imagine Kirkman's just going to rewrite this scene. He's going to make it a lot more palatable or something. But if they do that scene verbatim, it's like, oh god, Adam. They got to kill off Adam if they have him say that scene because no one's going to want that guy to live. That's a thing because he basically says this horrible thing about his daughter. Just I guess to boil it down, he says, "Thank you for taking pity on my daughter, knowing she's not a virgin." That's essentially what he says, but he says it in a really deplorable way.
Oh god.
And it's like it's again the Adam that we've gotten in the show. I don't believe would say something that outright just horrible. And the line that scene does make you wonder, like, how bad was Kirkman's dad? It's like one of those, like God, like that's one of your Jesus moments without the violence, Jacob. That's like what the,
Well,
oh
it's more like
my God,
it's an oh my god moment.
right?
But I mean, but and the whole the whole like Jesus thing is just like more in general, like like Powerplex's son getting killed.
What I'm saying, that's kind of like one of those moments, but just in terms of shock, you know.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, point being, we're going to see how they adapt that scene. That's another like those the two scenes that everyone wants to see just for the sake of. I wonder how they're going to approach this controversial moment. It's going to be that scene, but more so the everyone, all the trust me, Jacob, all the internet's eyes are going to be on what happens when eventually we get to that initial scene, which they kind of have to at least acknowledge in one some way, shape, or form.
And I hope they do treat it seriously.
I do too. I have the up. I mean, given what they've done here so far, it makes me think. I think we're going to. I think we're going to go there and we're going to treat it well. I think.
Because it's a subject that's not really explored in a lot of media.
Which again, I think would be a mistake to not include it. I really do. I think
I mean,
we kind of have to.
Talking about male victims in that way, you don't hear a lot of that.
Now, what I think we're going to do is, I think, assuming we tackle that scene, we're going to tackle that scene and maybe have the response to it be better within the story than it was in the comic. I think that's, I think that's what we're going to do there. At least that's what I hope we're going to do there.
All right.
I'm just saying. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so getting back to the point being, these two crazy kids, they're really made for each other, and we have some romance between them, and it's
she's like and Mark's like with the broken arms, he can't really take off his clothes.
That's what I'm saying. This is like, I'm just gonna. This is gonna sound weird. I appreciate just kind of like a nice sense. It's kind of sensual in just the right amount of ways.
Intimate. It's intimate.
You're right. It's intimate, and it's just intimate, and like it's kind of intimate in a clean way. If that makes any sense. I don't know. It's just like, well, this is a problem. He can't get undressed, so she uses her powers to do it. And well, hey, while they're not wearing anything, what's gonna happen?
It's like, but there's a bit of a problem.
Yep. Now I don't know if you looked into this or not. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't.
But let's just say what happens first. Like we peer down where she put their clothes, and they're melting.
Yeah, Mark's costume, which by the way makes me think. I would like to think that
he's gonna get back into it. Is he gonna get back to his yellow costume?
Yeah, at some point. I don't know how soon. I don't. My hope is that because I think we may have shorthanded it. We're okay because of this. We will be giving him a new suit, which I think is a really effective way of doing that. Well, I'm going to need a new suit. We're going to address what happened there with her powers. So I think that's a good springboard into season 4. But yeah, it's. I like to think that's how we're going to put him back in the original suit.
So he's no longer Invincible.
Yeah, so he's no longer Invincible.
So, Dragon, what exactly is the thing you were foreshadowing just then?
I don't know if you want me to tell you.
I mean, I kind of do, to be honest.
You want me to tell you?
I mean, yeah, you did kind of mention Conquest.
I did.
So I was like, yeah, I'm kind of invested in it.
Okay, so you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Okay, let's just say there's a very good chance that her powers are out of whack right now because she's pregnant.
Oh.
Very good chance. I believe. Now, mind you, in the comics, basically, now, I don't think we had the glowing goo in the comic. I don't think we did. Now, what we had, though, is that eventually in the comics, there was a story in which, she gets pregnant. Ooh. And the idea is, she, she can't use her powers because the more powers that if she uses her powers, it might endanger the baby. So that's kind of like, it's kind of like the whole, you don't drink when you're pregnant kind of a thing, though. Or it's not exactly the same. Basically, it's the baby needs nutrients, and basically when she uses her powers, it's kind of like taking nutrients away from the baby. That's a sense. It's not like she can't use her powers, but it's very ill-advised that she should not use her powers.
If she does, it might make her miscarry.
Yeah, so this is what we. So again, in the comics, that's what happens. I think a lot of people are making the link to why the heck would this happen with their powers, and that's. So it would make sense that her powers are losing, the cohesiveness because they're being siphoned away to support little little life that's going on inside of her. And we've established that these two have been getting busy.
Yeah, even Deborah knows.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So Debbie knows. They've been doing a little bit of that, and a little bit of that might have led to a little baby.
A little bit of this led to a little bit of that.
Yeah, and again, they're playing it coy, and they could be going somewhere else with it. It's possible, but I don't know.
I mean,
I'm saying,
Kirkman has changed some things around.
yeah, I'm just saying, in the comics, that's probably what's going on. There's only one or two things it could really be. It could be that, or it could be in reconstituting herself and pushing her powers the way that she did. Maybe something's out of whack. But again, that would be maybe a little new.
Or it could just be like a sign that she's very irradiated or something.
That's what I'm saying. Like, something was off in her reconstruction of herself in a hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's like secretly radioactive or something.
Well, maybe it's possible.
I mean, I doubt that's the case.
Well, it's all atomic structures and stuff, so
Yeah, but either way, Mark's clothes melting isn't a good thing.
Yep. Yep. But trust me, Eve's going to have some stuff happen to her in future seasons. Some things I think are going to be really, really interesting. Pregnancy being potentially one. Also, bit of a weight problem.
Oh.
Which, I just saying.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anyway.
So should be interesting. Now we just need to, like I said, some other teases about from the upcoming season.
Yeah, so we set up the Sequids are on the rise. They have basically been buying their time since season 2.
Poor Russ.
Yeah, poor Russ.
Oh, you just can't catch a break.
I'm gonna tease this. I hope they change this bit, but there's a bit with Russ in the comic that might be adapted that it'll be interesting when they do it. I hope they change it, but it'll be interesting if they do it.
All right, what happened?
So you just want me to tell you then?
Yes, I mean, is it as like spoilerific as Eve getting pregnant?
I mean, kind of, I guess. I mean, all right, I'll just tell you.
All right.
So, in the comic, there was a bit where Mark, I believe it's Russ specifically, but basically, he sees like a controlled Russ with the Sequid, and he kills him because of his new philosophy at the end of this. So at the end of the season, he has a big moment with now this was a big moment at the end of this arc where he tells Oliver, Oliver, you were right. If someone's threatening our family, that's the proviso. If someone's threatening our family, we shouldn't hesitate to kill them. Shouldn't hesitate to kill the bad guys. Now, in the comic, the way that plays, that he overstepped here and he killed essentially a guy who didn't deserve because he's just been taken over by an alien entity. But mind you, it probably can't be saved. But he basically, he killed Russ, and that was kind of like a moment of like, man, Mark really kind of missed the point. So I hope they find a way to doing that better. I was not crazy about how they did that because it did feel a little off. Where you think Mark would be a little smarter about that, but it's kind of like a black comedy moment, like Robot pointing at Mark. You didn't have to kill that guy. Why'd you do that? Well, he's evil, kind of.
Yeah, I can. Obviously, you're more intimately familiar with the material than I am. So, who knows?
Point being, well, we do know Sequids are on the rise. They've been kind of, now that all the the heroes have taken a beating between Invincible War and Conquest. They're about to hit while everyone's kind of weakened. For the third time, the Sequids just keep popping up each season.
Yeah, they're just the little things that won't go away.
Okay, Battle Beast. He has been found by the Coalition of Planets, our good guys. They found Battle Beast, and he might find his way helping our guys again.
Yeah, and he's completely surrounded by Viltrumite parts.
Yep. More!
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Nolan or Alan.
Well, again, I think, the Battle Beast thing suggests, okay, they're going to probably be meeting up with where Battle Beast is going.
All right.
Probably.
I mean, that makes sense.
I mean, Alan knows where the Coalition of Planets is, so they're probably gonna. That's where we're gonna check back in with those guys.
Like I said, I kind of wish we had at least seen them this episode.
Yeah, you're right. We probably, at the very least, I imagine the post-credit scene was going to be them, but it's
Yep.
probably a long trip wherever they're going.
Yep. They have to hold their breath the whole time.
Yep. All right, let's see.
Because they can't breathe in space.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, the technicians, voiced by Doug Bradley, Pinhead, by the way.
Yep. And then they're wanting to have Angstrom find a new home for them.
Yep, and you kind of hint that they were basically rebuilding the home that they lost, and the world that they came from is the reason why they have so many rebuilt parts. So
So they enlist Angstrom Levy after his failure to help them.
basically, we're kind of preparing the third act of Angstrom Levy.
Oh yeah, that should be interesting.
Okay, Cecil. With Conquest, Cecil has saved Conquest. He has him buried deep with a bunch of explosives around him, which we know is not going to end well.
No, not at all.
Let's see. I love that even Donald saying Cecil, this is a really bad idea.
But he has good intent. He has a good reason though. Like he's going to tell us everything about Viltrum.
Now, mind you, Cecil. A lot of people are really everyone's saying, okay, Cecil absolutely had a point this season, but then he goes and does something like this, and I think that's kind of intentional. That Cecil's doing something that, again, it lends credence. I love that by the end of this season, with our whole kind of civil war of Invincible between him and Cecil, at the end of the day, they're both kind of admit the other one's kind of right to a degree. But they're still not 100% in sync, in which Cecil's still pulling stuff like this. He's still making the reanimant out of Invincible's body himself. Like, Cecil hasn't learned. He's not looping anyone in on this kind of stuff. And it's like, it's going to bite him in the end. And again, Cecil does have a point, though. They do need to know about the invasion, because as far as they know, Nolan's dead.
Yep.
Yep.
So. You know what they say about the road to hell?
It's paved with good intentions, and also Damien Darkblood.
Oh yeah.
So we return of the Clans. Do a dance for the Clans. There he is.
No, and he talked to the old beast.
Do you know who voiced the old beast?
No, actually.
You want me to tell you?
Yes, I mean I probably saw the name, but I don't remember.
Bruce Campbell.
Oh, groovy.
Yeah.
Groovy.
So now here's something interesting.
Now, can you imagine if they had gotten Bruce Campbell to play Conquest?
Oh my god.
With the hand and all.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably wouldn't have fit, but it would have been interesting to say the least.
Oh yeah.
But so it's like he's talking about finding the old beast a vessel. But we don't know who he's talking about.
So here's something interesting. From what I understand, this whole Damien Darkblood thing.
Yeah.
Completely original for the show.
Like,
it was basically the way Kirkman said it was that this is a story he wanted to do in the comics, but they were never able to get to it, so they're going to do it in the show.
Interesting. So it's fresh material.
Yeah, that's from what I understand. This is fresh material, because I don't know if Damien Darkblood himself. I imagine Damien Darkblood was in the comic, but probably as much as we saw in season 1, he probably just showed up in that. Mind you, I kind of forgot if he was even in the original comic, but assuming he was probably in it purely just for just he's the one warning him, and no one listens to him. But yeah, so actually, kind of. Potentially I think he's talking about Nolan, but he could be talking about Mark. I don't know.
Or, I mean, he could really be talking about anyone.
That's true. I mean, he could be. Maybe the Immortal.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, if it's this is fresh territory even for people who've read the comic.
Yep.
I mean, so far, some of the biggest changes have been shrinking Ray surviving and being a woman.
Yep.
I mean, so far that's been the biggest changes, but now this whole thing with Damien Darkblood, a whole new arc with that, should be interesting. It's uncharted territory.
Yep.
So, and that's the big finale for season 3.
Yep.
So, Dragon, I know you asked me this question earlier, but so I'm going to ask it to you to close us off. Like, did this live up to the hype for you?
Oh dear God, yes. Oh, I feel so satisfied with what we got this season, this finale.
Well, that's good because you said Kirkman mentioned that it was an amazing finale, and I think he was right.
Yep.
He's since he wrote the episode, he's tooting his own horn, but he again, like Conquest, he was able to back it up.
Yep. Kirkman's doing the Lord's work with this Invincible show, man. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, he's he's steering the ship well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He said he's improving it along the way, so we'll see. I know he has more of a hand in this than he did The Walking Dead. I know that much.
Yep.
Isn't that pretty much how it goes? Like he didn't have nearly as much say in The Walking Dead show.
I mean, I think so, but I'm not. I don't know. I think they all defer to Kirkman to a degree, but it is going. It does. The show did different things than the comic, and I don't know. I don't think it's like this where it's like Kirkman. I don't think Kirkman readapted his own material in the Walking Dead show. I think he's basically, I think he's like acknowledged, like, yeah, they're going in a different direction than the comic, but because they're both kind of running concurrently at a certain point.
And like the addition of characters and a different ending.
I mean, I told you, and you heard the story, like how we got The Walking Dead made, didn't you?
Yeah, you imagine like when there's like the mass exodus from Marvel to form Image, like they're like looking for new talent and writers. Kirkman was there. Like the idea was The Walking Dead, and the idea for the zombie virus was aliens.
There you go.
Isn't that pretty much how it goes?
Yeah, that's the thing. He basically they weren't approving the idea until look, we need a hook. Okay, it's aliens. So okay, you're approved. And they're saying, well, this is really good, but I'm not seeing any hints or foreshadows of aliens, like you said. So that's because there aren't. I just need you guys to make the book.
And he was playing.
He was very honest, just saying, no, I had no intention of doing aliens. Were you nuts? No, I just needed you guys to give me the green light to do the book.
And then basically tell them once it became a success that he didn't plan on introducing aliens.
Exactly, which is brilliant.
It's like he was playing 4-dimensional chess.
Oh yeah.
And well, then not to mention he did eventually use aliens in Invincible.
Yep, made him all friendly and sound like Seth Rogen.
Yeah, he did use aliens, so technically, and if this is any indication, it's like the multiverse within Invincible.
Yep.
So technically, he didn't lie. He didn't fully lie.
Yep.
So, way to go, Kirkman. Never change.
Yeah.
Well, definitely change, but change for the better.
There you go.
I mean, not that he's bad. You get what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. You're saying he's evil with a mustache. It's okay.
It's like keep getting better, Kirkman.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm kind of digging my own grave here, but anyway, like Kirkman, you're doing as Dragon said earlier, you're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
So why don't you take us out, Dragon?
All right, folks. That'll do it for this season. Until next season, there'll be other recaps. Like our Daredevil recaps in the interim. But we will pick up with this when it returns next year. When next year, nobody knows. But we will definitely be talking more Invincible as soon as we can.
See you next year, folks.
Thank you, Mark.